Good morning, I'm Gretchen Ho. We're coming to you on this 20th day of August. It is a Wednesday, bringing you Morning Matters because your mornings matter. Let's get to the stories that matter today. As a Senate inquiry targets contractors who bagged multi-billion peso deals with questionable capacity, Public Works Secretary Manuel Bonoan makes a stunning admission. Some of the flood control projects under scrutiny might be ghost projects. Vice President Sara Duterte is asking the Supreme Court to junk the House's appeal on her impeachment. Her camp argues the appeal has no merit, was unauthorized by the 20th Congress, and the Supreme Court's original ruling was correct. And a U.S. report revealed there was no clear improvement in the Philippine human rights situation in 2024, despite a decline in incidents. Accountability remains a key issue, with just 4 convictions secured for killings under the Duterte administration's drug war. Welcome to our program, Morning Matters, where we talk about the issues you need to know for the rest of your day. Now, first on the agenda, Public Works Secretary Manuel Bonoan himself admits that some flood control projects may not even exist. This as senators have started to zero in on contractors accused of cornering multi-billion contracts despite questionable financial capacity. Here is a report.
5.9 billion pesos is the funding for 85 flood control projects in Bulacan. But the troubling part, some of those are allegedly ghost projects, according to the Department of Public Works and Highways.
There are ghost projects there. Or there
think so,
were
Your
ghost projects.
In all candidness, Your Honor, I think so.
That was the admission of DPWH Secretary Manuel Bonoan on the first day of the Senate Blue Ribbon Committee hearing on alleged anomalous flood control project. Ghost projects were said to be found particularly in flood-prone areas in Bulacan, including Kalumpit, Malolos, and Hagonoy. And the contractor, Wow Builders, which bagged up to 9 billion pesos worth of contracts since 2021. Almost 6 billion pesos of that was for flood control projects in Bulacan. But were those really projects for flood control, or did we just burn taxpayer money?
Kululukoyin dito. Labas nyo kung magkano yung in-award nito sa Wawaw. Kadiri kayo.
15 contractors allegedly cornering multiple flood control projects nationwide were invited to the hearing on Tuesday, but only 7 showed up. That's why the Senate issued subpoenas to the 8 contractors who failed to attend to ensure their presence in the next hearing. Among those summoned by the Senate were Wow Builders' Mark Alan Arevalo, Sara Discaya of Alpha and Omega, Maria Roma Angeline Remando of St. Timothy Construction, and Yumer Villanueva of Top Notch Catalyst Builders, among others.
Para hong ginagago itong committee natin na may sakit, nagbakasyon na, may mga prior schedule. Ano mas importante, prior schedule, Mr. Chair? Or itong investigasyon ito because 544 billion na pinag-uusapan natin.
May I move for the issuance of subpoena to those absent invited resource persons, particularly yung mga contractors, Mr. Chair, to require them to be present in the next hearing. I so move, Mr. Chair.
But it's not just ghost projects at issue. Senator Sherwin Gatchalian also raised possible hocus-pocus in pre-qualification. Even with low capitalization, some contractors supposedly cornered multi-billion projects. For example, MG Samidan Construction and Development Corporation, with only 250,000 pesos in capitalization, was awarded 5.2 billion pesos worth of contract. Similarly, QM Builders Incorporated, with only 1.2 million pesos in capital, bagged 7.3 billion pesos in contract.
Ilang project ang na-execute mo na?
Marami na eh.
O kanina sinabi mo, hindi ka pa nakapag-umpisa eh. Meron akong hawak na martilyo rito, sinasabi ko sa'yo.
Mr. Chair.
Huwag kang tatawa-tawa kasi hindi nakakatawa ito ha.
Mr. Chairman.
Dito lang nagsisinungaling ka na eh.
According to the DPWH, if ghost projects are proven, the contractors will face charges. But the question remains, where is the money and why didn't the COA detect it?
Sir, sa ngayon po, sir, since we are still consolidating and gathering data from our regional and district auditors.
Alam niyo yung problema, you have a very standard way of answering us
Yes,
eh.
sir.
You are still waiting for your regional offices. Alam niyo yung problema ninyo, Madam COA? Kasi puro kayo post-audit eh.
In the coming weeks, the committee is set to continue its hearings on possible anomalies.
Isabela Governor Rodito Albano said the province deserves more flood control projects, citing its high flood risk. Meanwhile, Bulacan Governor Daniel Fernando insisted that the DPWH carried out flood projects without coordinating with the provincial government. More in this report.
Isabela Governor Rodito Albano expressed disappointment over President Bongbong Marcos's list of provinces with the most flood control projects. Although Isabela ranked third with 341 since 2022, Albano said the province should have received more funding, highlighting its vulnerability to flooding.
Masama loob ko dyan eh. Kasi dapat, instead of number 3 kami dyan sa list, dapat kami naging number 1 eh. Kasi talagang flood-prone ang Isabela. Isabela at Cagayan. Ano? We're talking of real projects. Kung real itong mga to, pero kung ghost yung mga yan, ay ibang usapan na yun. You have to understand. We have the Cagayan River. Ang Cagayan River, ang pinakamahabang river sa buong Pilipinas.
In an interview with Storycon, he stressed that local governments have no final say in how these projects are carried out, as decisions and funding come from higher authorities.
Bakit kami sisisihin? Unang-una, hindi nanggaling sa amin yung pondo. Pangalawa, hindi kami nag-determine yan. Siyempre, ang nagde-determine yan yung national government. Hindi kami pwedeng sisihin ng mga tao dyan sa mga flood control projects na yan. Kasi alam nila hindi sa amin yan.
Albano added that he is willing to speak up for local contractors involved, urging an end to the ongoing blame game. Meanwhile, Bulacan Governor Daniel Fernando told the big story that flood control projects in the province are carried out by the Department of Public Works and Highways without coordinating with the provincial government. Fernando said he issued an executive order requiring all DPWH projects in Bulacan to be approved through the provincial capital. He also admitted being surprised by incomplete and substandard flood control work in the province.
Hindi po sinabit sa amin ng mga project na yan. Kaya hindi namin alam kung saan yung mga project na yan. Nagawa po ulit ako ng executive order na lahat ng mga project ng national government, ng mga DPWH, yadaan muna sa amin.
Leyte 4th District Representative Richard Gomez criticized a city mayor for repeatedly targeting lawmakers with corruption claims. In a social media post, Gomez said such accusations are being used for political gain. He urged the mayor to address concerns directly with the district's representative instead of making sweeping statements about the House of Representatives. Gomez added that while the mayor focuses on corruption claims, his city continues to face serious problems. Now, these include worsening air quality, poor public transport, ineffective waste management, overcrowding, illegal structures, and weak urban planning. Vice President Sara Duterte is asking the Supreme Court to junk the House of Representatives' appeal on her impeachment case. In a 27-page comment, Duterte's legal team said the House's motion for consideration has no merit and was not even authorized by the current 20th Congress. They also argued that the Supreme Court's earlier ruling declaring the impeachment complaint unconstitutional needs no correction. The House had claimed the court misread the sequence of events when it ruled that lawmakers committed grave abuse of discretion. But Duterte's camp insisted the appeal is a diversion that fails to present valid grounds to overturn the decision. When we return, let's circle back to our top story on flood control projects. And to further understand how these projects take place, we'll be joined on the show by former DPWH Secretary Babes Singson. Stay tuned. Morning Matters will be back. Good morning, I'm Gretchen Ho, and here at Morning Matters, we talk about the most pressing issues and give you the context behind the headlines. Senator Sherwin Gatchalian says the DPWH may be held primarily accountable for questionable flood control projects. Gatchalian told the big story that it was the agency that entered into contracts audited and accepted the projects before releasing government funds. Gatchalian also noted that DPWH Secretary Manuel Bonoan may be fully aware of what's happening, calling him a heavyweight in infrastructure projects who is only treading carefully in addressing the controversy. The senator further warned that the Senate may divert the funds to classroom construction to help address the education crisis.
We're trying to rush. We're trying to close the gap and rush in terms of addressing our education crisis. So if DPWH will not give us a solid argument for this flood control projects come 2026, then we won't hesitate to remove the amounts given there. This is a signal to them that they have to straighten out.
Several flood control projects in Oriental Mindoro have collapsed following heavy rains from the southwest monsoon, causing damage to agricultural land. Farmers in Bongabong and Nauhan reported crops buried under sand and debris after damaged dikes allowed river water to flood their fields. The Department of Agriculture estimates up to 600 metric tons of rice lost annually due to flooding and damaged flood control projects. Meanwhile, the Department of Public Works and Highways assured that repairs on the damaged flood control projects are underway under their 5-year warranty.
Every year, ang damage sa atin is 500 to 600,000 metric tons na nababawas. So kung maganda or effective yung ating control sa pagbaha, kunwari bumaha, tas mabilis din ang pagkawala nun, di ba? Mas less yung damage sa sektor ng agrikultura kasi number 1 din ang sektor na naapektuhan ng pagbagyo at pagbaha. So habang tumatagal yung pagbabad ng baha, tayo makahinga.
Amid questions over anomalous flood control projects, we now talk to former DPWH Secretary Rogelio Babes Singson to help us understand how flood control projects are supposed to work, from the planning and bidding to budget release and inspection. Magandang umaga po sa inyo. Thank you so much for joining us and for your time.
Thank you so much, Gretchen, for having me. Thank you.
Okay. Yesterday, we're coming off from the hearing on flood control projects, and the Secretary was put on the hot seat with him. We heard him say that they're still validating many of the flood control projects on the ground and whether these were completed and whether the reports were true. Do you agree with the Senator Sherwin Gatchalian's statement that the DPWH may be fully responsible over all of these flood control projects, that they should be held fully accountable?
Gretchen, the issue has the process of DPWH in terms of identifying projects has really been bastardized several times over. It's fairly simple. During my stint there, we had very clear criteria for projects to be executed. The main reason I've been following all these discussions is that before, a district engineer only had control over 50 million projects. In other words, a district engineer can only approve up to 50 million. It goes up to the regional director, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, at the 150 threshold. Anything above 150, it goes to central office for a more thorough review. Okay. What has happened in the past is the 50 million threshold has been increased to 150 million pesos. In other words, the district engineer and his bids and awards committee is now responsible for projects up to 150 million. So you can imagine what's happening in the process. A 1 billion project, china-chop-chop na yan ng 150 million each so that it does not go to the scrutiny of anyone above the district engineer. Let's face it, the district engineer is very vulnerable to politicians. He is vulnerable to the congressman, to the LGUs. And so I pity these guys.
Okay. So, yun po yung nangyayari. Ngayon, yung district engineer po is responsible for about 150 million. Um, are there lots of district engineers in a certain province that are involved then if china-chop-chop po ito or pinapalabas na maraming proyekto under just one engineer?
Yeah, let's just focus on flood control. Ang dami-daming lumalabas na projects. No? But under the DPWH standard of good governance, first of all, you determine, are those projects the right projects? Tanong mo, tama ba yan? Ginawan ba ng tamang studies yan? Is that part of a master plan? Especially if it's a flood control, is it part of a flood master plan for the river basin? Hindi pwede yung kung saan mo lang gustong ilagay ang project na yan. It has to make sense. Is it the right project? Pangalawang tanong, is that the right cost? Binit mo ba ng tama yan? Hindi ba hausyaw yan? O hindi ba addressed to favored politicians or addressed to contractors? Or sinasabi nilang may model ngayon na bago, subcontracting. Kukunin ko itong project na ito, pero hindi ako yung mag-execute. Kaya yung ibang contractors nakakakuha ng much more than their actual cash capacity. Imaginin mo yung pinag-uusapan ni Senator Gretchen Ho, magkano na yung paid up capital mo? Wala pa 1 milyon. Ang project mo, 6 billion. Paano nangyari yon? No? So, pangatlo, quality. I urge the local communities, the LGUs, makialam kayo dyan. At the end of the day, proyekto ng probinsya yan. Proyekto ng community yan. Bakit hindi kayo magbantay dyan sa mga projects na yan? No? So, the communities have to be engaged. Hindi pwede yung sabihin nyo, hindi namin alam yan. Pakialaman nyo dahil kayo makikinabang dyan o kayo mapeperwisyo. Inubos na yung pera ng bayan dyan sa probinsya nyo, wala pa nangyayari. Taon-taon yan.
That's what I wanted to ask as a second question. No? We had Governor Daniel Fernando here on the show at sinabi po niya wala siyang alam kasi lahat po ito ay national, DPWH. Pero hindi po ba they would have to sign off also on these projects to be able to disburse the budget and to signify that the project has been completed? Wala po bang ganong mechanism?
Hindi naman requirement yon, Gretchen. But it is up to the PWH to engage the community and the local officials. I always had the church behind me, the local media, and the LGU. No? Barangay captain ka o community leader ka, bantayan mo yung project namin. At the end of the day, kayo ang makikinabang o kayo ang mapeperwisyo. Ganun lang ka-diretso yan.
Okay, I wanted to go through the whole process wherein an infrastructure project is requested for and then awarded and then the contractor is actually paid. Can we begin with the procedure where a project is initiated? Who makes the request and how does it begin and how are projects prioritized?
Okay, may proseso yan. Ano? So first, at the district engineer level, district level, may mga list of projects coming from all quarters. Sabi mo na, congressman, local government, barangay, gusto namin ganito, ganyan. You have to identify those projects and collate all of it at the district level, at the regional level, and then at the provincial level. All of these are now collated by the department and becomes part of what is now referred to as the National Expenditures Program, NEP. The President signs off all of these submissions from the different departments and submits it to Congress. Okay. After that, the Congress now will review them. Siyempre, kanya-kanyang interest na yan. Yung bang proyekto sa distrito ko, tama ba yan? Sa akin ba yan? Kanino ba yan? Sino nag-submit yan? And everything else. And that's why you have these hearings. After those budget hearings, the Congress will come out with what is referred to as GAA, General Appropriations Act, which is now the budget proposals or budget appropriation na yan. Now, ang question dyan, between the NEP that was submitted, in particular DPWH, and what was approved in Congress, may tinatawag na insertions, may nagsingitan na wala naman sa programa ni DPWH. Saan nanggaling yan? Di siyempre sa Kongreso. Okay? Anong klase yung mga siningit niya? Ba't ang laki-laki? 800 billion ang sinabmit sa NEP, lumabas 1.1 trillion. Yung 200 billion na yan, saan pupunta yan? Ang balita ko, puros flood control karamihan yan. Bakit? Anong basis niyan? Yan ang mga tanongin ng Senado. Isa-isay nila. Si Senator Ping Lacson, yan ang ginagawa niya dati sa amin. Tatanungin niya na kagad yan. Ano nangyari? Ano itong mga insertions? Ano itong pork barrel na to? Tawagin na natin pork barrel. Name it in whatever, but sa akin, yung insertions yan, hindi namin alam saan nanggaling yan.
Okay, so ibig sabihin po, kung ito po ay dinadala sa Kongreso for review at dito po nangyayari mga insertions, ibig sabihin ng mga kongresista ay may full knowledge of the budgets that go to their districts and provinces. Tama po ba?
Of course, surely.
Oo. So kung ayaw din po nila maglagay ng budget sa isang lugar, pwede rin po nilang tanggalin at ilagay po sa iba?
Pwede naman. Pero siyempre, iiyak yung binawasan.
Okay. So,
kaya puros dagdag para walang away.
Yun nga rin po ang tatanungin ko sana, no? Kasi kung ang pera ay dumadaan po sa mga congressman at yun po yung kailangan para mapaandar yung DPWH sa isang lugar, hindi po ba dapat,
Let me correct. Hindi yung pera yung dumadaan, yung list of projects.
List
yung
of projects lang, for the approval
yun.
only. Oo. So, itong mga congressman, when they look at the DPWH budget, do they do reviews of these flood control projects? And kung kung kailangan po ba talaga ito?
Dapat ginagawa nila yon. Kasi kung talagang hindi naman kailangan yon and they need it for, let's say, improving their bridges or their other infrastructure, they can say so. Kasi DPWH has different programs. National Roads and Bridges, you have flood control, you have what we call convergence. No? Halimbawa, nasa distrito ko may seaport, pero yung papunta sa seaport, barangay road. Paano papasok ang container vans dyan? I'd rather focus resources of government to making those barangay roads national roads. No? Yung ganun ba?
Okay. So, are flood control projects the easiest loophole to exploit? I mean, kayo na po nagsabi na marami po insertions sa flood control po napupunta. Bakit ho?
Several times, yes.
Yun po yung number one, numero uno.
Pinakamadali.
Kasi po sa dredging, hindi na po mamamonitor kung na-dredge na.
Of course, sino naman
mga riprap, hindi po makikita yung ilalim. Oo. Okay. But ito po sa mga decade na nakita po natin sa Bulacan, marami po sa kanila ay parang walang bakal, ano? I mean, wala po bang standard ang DPWH dito na dapat pag meron po kayo in-implement na proyekto, ini-inspect po yan at dapat it holds to a certain standard to make sure that it lasts for a long time.
Let's face it. No? Yung flood control project na yan, kung kailangan ng sheet piles, dapat umabot hanggang doon sa hard surface sa ilalim ng tubig. No? Usually, ang sheet pile, 8 meters ang haba niyan para nakabaon at saka naka-anchor sa ilalim na hard surface. Pero yung kontratista, kung ang natitira na lang sa kanya 30% for the project, he has to make money for 12%. So 42% matitira sa contractor. Yung 8 meters na yan, obviously, hindi niya na kayang gawin yan. Puputulin niya na yan sa 1 metro na lang. So yung isang metro nakalutang yan. The next flood comes, wipe out yan. Walang ibig sabihin yung isang metro. Hindi man lang umabot sa ilalim ng hard surface. Yan ang katotohanan dyan. At sinabi na ni Mayor Magalong yan sa amin.
Okay. So, tama po ba na pati ito po mga contractor, financially constrained din? And that's the reason, kayo na po nagsabi na that's the reason why they would have to make their own profits. That's why, kumbaga, substandard yung mga proyekto. Kasi hindi rin po sila nababayaran on time or hindi rin sila nababayaran ng malaki-laki. Kumbaga, in terms of the profit sharing, they don't really get a huge amount.
Yeah, there's nothing left for a good project. 30% is not enough to construct a project according to specifications. Ang problema talaga dyan is the inspection. No? Kaya I am calling the attention of the LGUs and the communities themselves. May project sa inyong komunidad, bantayan nyo, pakialaman nyo, alamin nyo kung ano yung quality niyan. Dahil I am sure, pagka nag-shortcut yan, kayo ang mapeperwisyo. Yang bahana yan, matagal na dapat na solusyonan yan. Ilang beses nang paulit-ulit yung flood control project sa distrito nyo, hindi na na-resolve yan.
Okay. Let's continue on the process. So after po the requests are sent to the district engineer from the district, provincial, and regional, what is the process for bidding out these projects and how are the bidders chosen?
Yeah, the district engineer or the district office of DPWH has a local or a district bids and awards committee. Okay, so the bids and awards committee is the one that conducts the bidding. Now, kung yung mga nandiyan dyan, walang ayaw sundin yung proseso or nasabihan na kung sino yung mananalo, ano pa ibibid nila? Nagkalutuan na pala.
Okay, so
there are standards for contractors to be pre-qualified. Meron kang sinusunod. Critical to that is what is referred to as the net financial contracting capability. How can a small company, a sole proprietorship with less than 250 million get 7, 20, 40 billion project? Hindi ko maintindihan yon. Paano nakakakuha yon kung hindi naman talagang pinagsabihan na huwag nyo nang tignan yung NFCC na yan.
Katulad po nitong MG Samidan na meron ng po 250,000 in paid-up capital that it was awarded about 5 billion in projects. How does that happen? I mean, bakit hindi po nasasala ito?
Yeah, as I said earlier, the process has been badly bastardized several times.
Wala pong kumukontra dito
Well,
sa kanila. Kumbaga
nandiyan ang
parang nangyari
COA.
na lang.
If they do their job, hindi sila pikit mata, makikita kaagad nila yan. And the communities themselves. Mabuti nga si Governor Dan Fernando nagsasalita na lahat yung projects niya, wala kaming kinalaman. Yung sinasabi ni Governor Albano, tama siya. Yung buong Cagayan River na yan is the longest and the biggest river basin ng Pilipinas. Doon, tubig nanggagaling pa sa Cordillera. Wipe out lahat yung kanilang rice lands doon.
Oh, so then is it safe to say that the inspectors here must be held responsible?
Halo-halo na yan, Gretchen. Mahirap na magtuluan. Basta sundan lang sana nila yung proseso at bantayan ng community.
Kasi sila po ang nag-approve Oo. Yung inspectors po, saan po nanggagaling? Yung mga nag-signatories po before mabayaran yung contractor?
Yun ang nakakatawa dyan. Kung sino yung nag-identify ng project na district office, siya din ang mag-i-inspect, siya din ang mag-approve, siya din ang magbabayad. Walang check and balance. Yung panahon ko, I had third party private sector inspecting the projects. Hindi pwede yung ikaw na nag-approve, ikaw na nag-inspect, ikaw pa yung tatanggap, ikaw magbabayad. Nasaan yung check and balance dyan? Walang check and balance. Tapos kukontsabahin pa yung COA auditor. Ay talagang nasa laula na yung proseso.
Okay. Hindi po ba required po ang signature dito ng barangay kung saan po ginawa yung proyekto?
I don't think so. I don't think so. But
so
as a process, they should be involved.
Okay. And then the COA, when do they step in?
Post-audit, which is bad.
Tapos na.
Tapos na. Wala na makikita yon. Nag-dredging na. Nabilang ba nila kung ilang hakot ng lupa dyan?
Okay.
Tapos,
you mentioned...
ang isasagot lang nila, umulan bumaba uli yung putik. Nandiyan dyan na naman.
You mentioned getting a third party. And did you apply that throughout all of the projects?
I did.
On your own prerogative, but it's not standard practice.
No. Pero I needed check and balances. No? Somebody has, hindi naman pwede ikaw ng lahat, ikaw pa magbabayad. Kung nasabihan ka kung sino man nanalo dyan, at in-inspection mo kunyari yan, wala nang check and balance yan. And that's why I'm saying, the community themselves have to get involved. They have to be engaged. Makikita naman, ang dali-dali naman sukatin yan. Yung kalye, yung konkreto, dapat ganito kakapal. Yung sheet pile, dapat 8 meters. Tingnan mo, yung sheet pile na dinala dyan, 8 meters pa yan, 1 meter na lang.
Totoo. Pero kung ang power po ay nasa district office at district engineer, hindi po ba matatakot din ho yung local community na magsalita dahil baka sa susunod hindi na po sila mapagbigyan dun sa mga request nila sa kanilang barangay o sa kanilang distrito?
Hindi. Karapatan nila yun na magsalita. Kung mananahimik sila, di ganyan, magpasensyaan tayo, magdusa kayo pagdating ng tubig.
Okay. And the DPWH Secretary, how do you get your reports on the progress of these projects? Kasi kahapon po, sabi po ni Secretary Punuan, binavalidate pa nila, may mga tao sa baba, yung information sa baba. Ano po ba, to help us understand, ano po ba dapat alam ng Secretary?
Merong software available that we use where you monitor both the financial disbursements, what we call financial accomplishment versus the fiscal accomplishment. Hindi pwede yung nauunang nababayaran, wala pang tapos na project. Tapos na yung bayaran, completed na, pero yung project hindi pa kompleto. Meron, ang dali-dali, software available yan. Primavera ang tawag dyan. We use that extensively from the districts, the regions, all the way to the top. So at the end of the month, mako-consolidate mo kaagad yan. O saan tayo na-delay? Bakit ganito ang delay dyan sa project na yan? Pero advance payments lahat.
Well, do you think the Secretary was really not aware of what was happening?
No, I pity Secretary Bono. I pity him. Because 150, wala na siyang control Wala nang project daw sa central office, no? Ang nasa central office na lang na ginagawa nila, yung official development assistance, foreign assisted, dahil lahat nasa district or at the most nasa region.
Okay, so then siguro kailangan pong ipatawag sa Kongreso itong mga district engineer.
Dapat lang, umpisa niya sa Bulacan. Tanong niya kung saan nanggaling yung district engineer dyan.
Okay. Kung kayo po ay magpropose po ng mga amendments to how these flood control projects are bidded and awarded and requested, ano po kaya yun? Paano po kaya mas magiging pulido po yung checks and balances po natin?
Yeah. They just have to adapt what we had already before, yung good governance and anti-corruption measures, which is the 5 Rs, no? Right project ba yan? May mga measures yan to determine if they're the right projects. Right cost ba yan? Meron, kasi dati kami, meron unit standards, no? May cost unit standards. Hindi pwede magkatabi kayong distrito, iba presyo ng semento. Pareho kayong nasa Bulacan. Iba presyo ng isang distrito sa isa. Bakit? Saan nanggaling yung sementong yan? So, right cost. Pangatlo, right quality. Bantayan ninyo yan ng tama, hindi yung kayo-kayo rin ang magbabantay. Third party and the community should be monitoring those projects. Pang-apat, right on time. Hindi naman yung paulit-ulit, taon-taon, yan pa rin ang binubugbog nyo nang wala namang pinupuntahan. Pang-lima, right people. Ito, importante. Right people. Tama ba yan na nandiyan dyan? During my time, walang outsider na nagiging district engineer. Puros dumaan sa proseso yan. Pagka may vacancy, it's all promotion from within. Sino yung gusto mag-apply, apply kayo. Then we will go to the process. All appointments are vetted at the ExCom of DPWH. It's there. Let's not reinvent the wheel. It is there. Kaya lang, as I said, it's been bastardized. Naawa ako sa DPWH. Ang dami naman professionals dyan. Pero lahat sila damay. I'm hearing stories, nahihiya na sila sa kapitbahay nila na taga DPWH sila.
Okay. And pagdating po sa sa mga contractor that are given these projects, tama po ba na yung times 15 yung computation ng net financial contracting capacity? Hindi po ba dapat mas malaki yung capital mo to be able to handle a certain project at hindi maliit na minumultiply po? Alam po natin sa bank loan yun, di ba? Pero how is that computation done and assessment?
If you review properly, makikita mo yan. Hindi naman straightforward times 15. Kung meron siyang ongoing projects na hindi pa niya natatapos na umpisan, babawasan mo yon. Dahil obligasyon na niya yun eh. Ito mukhang hindi, straightforward. Basta taon-taon, 15% of what I have. Teka muna, paano yung hindi mo ginagawa at hindi mo pa natatapos? That's part of your capacity.
Okay. Baka kayo po ang pwedeng maimbitahan sa hearing. At maganda po ang insight po ninyo into the whole process. Thank you so much for enlightening us. Maraming mga katanungan dyan. Sino nga ba
Thank you,
responsable?
Gretchen. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Dahil nga po, nagtuturuan na.
As I said, I'm doing this because I love the institution I serve for 6 years. Naawa ako doon sa mga taong nandiyan dyan, including Secretary Bonoan himself.
Okay, maraming salamat po for your time today and for shedding light on all of these flood control projects. We have former DPWH Secretary Rogelio Babes Singson joining us on Morning Matters today. And don't go away. We got more to discuss right after a quick break. Keep it here on One News. Welcome back. You're still watching Morning Matters here on One News. Vlogger Alvin Sarzate admitted that divisions have emerged among supporters of former President Rodrigo Duterte. In an interview with Sa Totoo Lang, Sarzate said he chose not to join any group, citing a desire to avoid being associated with solicitation or political drama. He emphasized that quiet, personal support is enough for him as a private citizen. The vlogger also confirmed that he did not attend the so-called peace meeting organized by former presidential spokesperson Harry Roque due to a conflict in his schedule. Despite this, he assured that he remains cordial with all supporters and continues to support initiatives for former President Duterte.
Nakaka-sad nga po na nangyari na meron na talagang identified na dalawang factions. Kasi nagsimula po ito lahat, we are really united in solidarity to show our unwavering love and support doon po sa ating dating Pangulong Rodrigo Roa Duterte. Po akong problema sa mga grupo-grupo at walang-wala po akong problema, ma'am, sa DDS at saka sa MAISOG na organization or sa pangkalahatang DDS individuals na sumusuporta kay PRRD.
A U.S. report says the overall human rights situation in the Philippines showed no clear systemic improvement in 2024. The U.S. State Department cited the dismissal of charges against former Senator Laila de Lima and journalist Maria Ressa, as well as a Supreme Court ruling against red tagging. But the report noted continuing concerns over police impunity, extrajudicial killings, and other abuses. While incidents have declined compared to previous years, accountability remains limited, with only 4 convictions so far for drug war-related killings under the Duterte administration. Let's get the reaction of the Commission on Human Rights regarding this report. Joining us now is CHR Commissioner and Spokesperson, Attorney Beda Epres. Magandang umaga po sa inyo.
Hi, Gretchen. Good morning, and good morning to your televiewers.
Attorney, do you agree with the report saying that the Philippines showed no clear systematic improvement in 2024 on human rights?
Maybe to put it in the proper context, let's all I think the report states that there is a decline in the numbers of human rights violation, but with respect to a sustainable and systematic approach on how to fight human rights violation, I think the government still needs an improvement on the matter. So there is a decrease in numbers of human rights violation, but a policy on a clear and sustainable and systematic way of how to prevent or address human rights violations is really still necessary.
So that means to say you agree with the report's assessment?
Yes.
Okay. Sa mga nakaraang taon ho, marami pa rin po ba tayong nababalitaan na extrajudicial killings? And why do these continue to persist despite the administration's stance against the EJ case and for a more rehabilitative approach to the drug war?
Probably the reason is yung the campaign against the drug problem is still intensifying. Tuloy-tuloy pa rin po ang Philippine National Police on this. Although there was a refocus on the part of the Marcos administration to treat the drug problem as a health concern. Pero still, namomonitor din naman po natin sa Balita na talaga pong parang tumitindi ulit yung drug problem dito sa Philippines, and that is why the Philippine National Police is intensifying their operation. And so in the process, nagkakaroon po ng encounter, and that is the reason why tumataas po ulit yung number of deaths arising from these drug operations. Maybe isa na rin po siguro is sinasabi po kasi nila that matagal makita yung accountability, yung progress ng mga investigations ng lahat ng investigating bodies medyo mabagal. So hindi kaagad na-establish yung liability nung mga perpetrators. When I say liability, it's what I mean by that is the determination whether liable ba siya or is it a product of illegitimate police operation. So kung mabilis po sana yung ating investigation on this, hindi hangin yung issue on whether may liability or wala. Sana may establish po kaagad itong accountability kung meron man. Kung wala, and then i-dismiss na rin po kaagad yung cases because it is a result of illegitimate police operation.
Does that mean to say that the government has not put in place enough deterrents against the EJ case?
There are systems, ma'am, in place naman. Kaya nga lang, ang nagiging problema is pagdating po doon sa investigation na on the matter. Like investigation on whether this person is really involved in drugs or whether meron bang overkill doon sa procedure in implementing the police operations. Yun lang po siguro ang nagiging problema, kaya medyo nandyan pa rin yung usapin with respect to killings in relation to drug operations.
Hindi ho ba pagdating naman po dun sa sa mga police operation, they are required to wear body cams. Kaya mas madali po makita kung ano po yung nangyayari in the crime scene, which could help the investigation itself.
Yes, ma'am. Tama po yan.
Oo. Pero at the same, nahihirapan pa rin po in closing these cases.
Doon na po ma'am sa process ng investigation, medyo aminado po tayo, medyo mabagal po talaga yung even if there are sufficient evidence na nakikita or the available evidence, but it's the process, the procedure in the conduct of the investigation itself po ang medyo
knowing
mabagal.
that
Maybe it's because of yes po.
Knowing that law enforcers themselves are involved or the subject of the investigation. That is the primary challenge here.
Isa po yun, and siguro kasi ang dami rin po ng cases na iniimbestigahan talaga ng ating Department of Justice. So medyo may konti pong delay. But then, I think the government, specifically the Department of Justice, is really intensifying din po the conduct of their operation para talaga mapabilis na ito and ma-establish ang accountability para hindi po na pagbibintangan na there is impunity pagdating po sa commission ng mga criminal offenses.
Attorney, I do remember the PNP chief, the current one, PNP Chief Nicolas Torre III inviting the CHR to join police operations. Nagbago po ba yung tone nitong PNP sa mga request po ng CHR? At kayo po ba sumama na?
Nagkaroon po ng courtesy visit yung aming chairperson with the Chief PNP with the plan of crafting a memorandum of agreement. And during the meeting, the head of the National Police Commission was also present. So ang naging usapan po nitong tatlong agencies is maging tripartite na po yung memorandum of agreement para balance po. Merong on the part of the operation, meron pong titingin doon sa possible criminal and administrative liability ng mga police personnel involved, and then yung human rights aspect naman. We are in the process, ma'am, of finalizing the memorandum of agreement. And isa po yun doon sa pupuntahan yung maging involved po yung Commission on Human Rights in the conduct of investigation against po sa mga Philippine National Police. And to us, that is a welcome development that the administration of the Philippine National Police is opening its door para po sa CHR na
Oo, so papasok po kayo dun na po sa investigative stage?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Pero ang isa pong tinitingnan namin baka pwede na maging doon po sa education aspect yung kailangan po sigurong merong mga trainings na ibigay din ng CHR with respect to the issue on human rights para alam lang po nila magkaroon po ng human rights approach in the conduct of the investigation, in the conduct of their police operation.
Okay. How about the red tagging situation? It has been ruled as a threat to personal safety. How are our, I guess, the victims of red tagging doing? Dumadami po ba yung mga incidents? O the Supreme Court ruling has helped the situation?
Yes, at least because of the ruling of the Supreme Court, and they had the chance to really tell the people that red tagging is a threat to the life and security of individuals being surveilled or being monitored. And that's the reason, ma'am, we conducted a public inquiry on red tagging. We invited the victims to testify and to provide testimonies. And we also invited the state forces, yung pong napagbibintangan na allegedly sila po yung nagsasagawa ng red tagging. And hopefully we could come up with the report. The purpose naman po ng aming inquiry is really to provide a definition of what is really red tagging, and then submit recommendation to Congress if there is really a need for a law or to pass a law on red tagging. Pero marami pa rin pong mga reports kaming nare-receive, and marami pa pong nag-file ng complaints sa amin about our human rights advocates being the subject of surveillance by elements of the state.
Do we have updates on the journalists that have been arrested because of, I guess, what they do? One of which is Frenchie May Cumpio, a community journalist in Tacloban City who has been accused of carrying illegal firearms and explosives. Meron po ba tayong update doon? Ano po yung nangyari sa sitwasyon na yun?
We are closely monitoring the case. The last report that was relayed to us by our regional office is that natapos na po ata yung testimony ng defense ng last week of July, and there's already awaiting for the decision from the courts po.
Oo. Pero is the CHR closely monitoring this case?
Yes, ma'am. We are closely monitoring the case. Kasi po, I think it was about 3 weeks ago, we received a report that meron pong restrictions na ini-implement yung warden nung doon sa Region 8 kung saan po naka-detain sina Ms. Cumpio, and we immediately requested the warden to explain kung ano po ba yung reklamo, like hindi sila nabibigyan. Letters that are supposedly addressed to them ay binabasa po muna, tapos hindi po kaagad sila pinagbibigyan din sa request for medical attention, and we already asked the warden to explain, and we're also conducting investigation on the matter.
Okay. The Marcos administration has about 3 years left, and this report comes in the middle of that term. What would the CHR like to see from this administration to be able to give them a passing grade when it comes to human rights and pushing for a more systematic approach to the fight?
Yes. But sana po tuloy-tuloy po yung maging focus ng Marcos administration with respect to the issue of yung drug problem. Sana tuloy-tuloy that they would treat this as a health issue, and the remedy really is rehabilitation, and dapat paigtingan po yung due process pagdating po doon sa mga nahuhuli. And of course, expedite yung trials na ginagawa, because marami po ang nakadetain who are awaiting a trial, and those who have been in jail for quite a long time na po, na waiting for the decision in their cases. So kung mas mabilis po sana yung pag-dispense ng justice, then mabilis na makakalabas yung mga tao sa kulungan, and then that would really decongest yung ating mga cases of deprivation of liberties. And also, pagdating po sa extrajudicial killing, sana tingnan po natin ulit ang ano po ba talaga ang focus ng government. If sana the focus would be on intensifying investigation from the police force to determine really whether these individuals are into drugs or involved in any criminality, and that the killing would only be the last resort. If yun na po yung, if it is a self-defense, talagang at risk na rin po yung ating mga frontliners na mga police. Killing should never be resorted po sana.
All right, thank you very much. This is a good point for self-reflection as the Marcos administration heads on to its last 3 years. At katuwang po namin kayo ang CHR in, fighting for human rights. We have CHR Commissioner and Spokesperson Attorney Beda Epres commenting on that latest U.S. report. Let's move on over to sports. Filipina triathlete Kira Ellis dominated the 2025 Europe Triathlon Junior Women's Cup in Riga, Latvia. The 18-year-old broke away in the run leg to outpace Belgium and Germany, securing the top podium spot among 15 competitors from 10 countries. It was a strong comeback for Ellis after a recent shin injury, boosted by a PSC back training camp in Portugal. Ellis, a SEA Games gold medalist, is set to lead the Philippine triathlon team in this year's regional games in Thailand. And that wraps up today's episode of Morning Matters. We hope we've given you the right start to your morning. Let's go ahead and make the day matter. My name is Gretchen Ho. We are One News, all sides, all the time.